Bread I greet each of you this evening in the name of Jesus. Welcome you here to our evening service. I think it's something that we look forward to hear what the Lord has done through the hearts and lives of some of our people here, and enjoy seeing your interest. For a short devotional, I'm thinking to read from Psalm 126. We're not going to be long here, but just a few thoughts. It says, "When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, The Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us. Wherefore we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him." And as I think back over some of the things that we have heard already from our youth who had been traveling, they have heard some and experienced some interesting and things that are worth talking about. And so we are grateful to have an evening where they can share with us from their thoughts and experiences. So may we continue to pray that God would use them to speak to us, to our hearts. Let's bow our heads for prayer. Father, we thank you for this evening. Thank you, Lord, for your love and your mercy to us today. Thank you that you have given us life. You've given us strength, the privilege to be together in this way this evening. And we lift up now these three who will be sharing with us. Pray for Jason, for Daniel and Barbara, as they will be sharing to us from their experiences as they traveled in various parts of the world in sharing the gospel message. Father, I pray that our hearts could be stirred to be faithful in the calling wherein you have called us, and to do it with joy and allow you to use us, continue to use us for your glory and for your honor. Lord, we commit this evening to you. Pray for those that cannot be here. Bless them as well. Pray, Lord, that you would grant them a blessed evening and they may feel your presence as well. We commit our lives to you, we pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. I'm sure a lot of hard work has gone into preparing for this evening. Number one, to live through the experiences was an experience, and I'm sure challenging for the three that will be sharing with us. And secondly, I know a little bit what it's like to prepare for an evening like this. So a lot of work has gone into that preparation. And now the third, of course, is yet to actually share that. So we bless each of them for their participation and for their willingness to share with us this evening. Jason, Brother Jason, he spent 6 weeks? 5 weeks with GTO, sharing the gospel message in South America somewhere. I think he will be sharing that with us. And so we're going to let him share first, and following that, then will be Daniel and Barbara, who will share with us what they experienced as they traveled with Global Outreach. So God bless you as you share.
Okay, so as most of you know, and some of you maybe don't know, I spent 5 weeks in South America with GTO on their Charge program. GTO has 3 short-term, you'll hear me? GTO has 3 short-term programs. I call them short-term, 6 months, maybe not really short. Doesn't look short to you, but they have EDGE, a 6-month leadership program for guys, and then Ultra is a 6-month leadership program for girls. And then Charge is just a co-ed trip for 5 weeks, where you have one of the EDGE guys, one of the Ultra girls is your leader, and basically you start in Colombia and you just go to your destination country there for 4 weeks. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, pretty great. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. Some of the stuff I'm going to be sharing tonight is just, I've got about 3 or 4 pictures or videos from each week, and I'm going to try to share a story from each week, and then, yeah, hopefully you all can benefit from that. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. Some of the format of the trip and how they do things, I can't share some of that simply because if there's people here that would go do it, they feel and I feel like it would be better if you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So that's part of their program. Everybody see that? So this is the group that I went with. They're on the left there, the dark-haired guy. See if I can zoom in here a little bit. That's Javon Martin. He's from Lancaster, PA. And then the girl next to me is Nim Stoltzfus. She's one of the Ultra girls. She's also from Lancaster. And then the one in the middle is Brianna Seibel. She's also from Lancaster. And then the next girl in the blue shirt is from North Carolina. Her name's Rebecca. And then the guy on the end is Jack Good. He's one of the EDGE leaders. The first week we spent there, we went to a orphanage children's home. They had about, I think it was about 75 or 80 kids there, anywhere from 4 years old to 18 to, some of them are even older than 18, like 21, 22. Basically what it is just children that have been abused by their parents, or the government said, hey, you can't, whatever, you know, your children need to find a better place to live, and then they place them here in this home. And it's got some pretty incredible stories, honestly. The way it came about is really amazing. The house parents there, their names are Davi and Ada, David and Ada. They had the chance to go to the States about, was it 6 or 7 years ago? I forget. And they could have moved to the States and potentially had what most people would call a better life, but they decided that they wanted to start this children's home, but they had literally no money whatsoever. And they bought the place, put up one building, and they had, I think at one time they had all of the like 60, I think it was like 50 or 60 kids in one building, which is pretty insane because it's not very big. But and the government came in and said, we can't have you guys all crowded like this. We need to, you know, have at least 7 buildings or bunkhouses that they have now. But they had no money whatsoever. He posted it on Facebook one day, and 3 days later a truck drives in with full of building materials and just loads it off and leaves. And that has been happening there the last 7 or 8 months now. Once a month they have a truck that comes in and gives them building supplies. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah. The first picture there is playing soccer with the kids. Or they were having gym class. And that is the front of the home there with all the kids. The second week we were mostly at our host place, Luis and Lydia. They're a Beachy Mennonite couple that lives down there. The second week we only just kind of stayed around there, did a lot of yard work, kind of landscaping for them. Did some singing for older people. It's kind of we took cupcakes and goodies to school there. played some very physical games. It was pretty funny. Also, we had one of the girls that got sick. She got, we weren't sure if she picked it up on the trip or what it was, but she had a parasite, which wasn't great, and she was sick for about a week. So that was pretty interesting. Here's a video. I'm not sure if I have audio on this, but this, the third week we went with there's a British missionary down there in Paraguay. His name is Peter Ratcliffe. We went with him, and he does work where he goes out to tribes way back in the sticks and in the bush, whatever, and shares the gospel with people, gives them food, basically. What we did was kind of we would arrive and then maybe sit around for a few minutes, just greet everybody, and then we'd sing them a few songs, give candy to the kids, and then we'd share the gospel with them. It was a pretty incredible experience. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole trip. They were making tortillas for them, or wraps, or whatever you want to call it. And then the last week, we went to Camp 9, where Linfords are from, volleyball with your youth. And then from there, we jumped on a bus and went to Iguazu Falls and visited the falls there one day. And then the next day, we went out, I forget what the city was called. Was it? I can't pronounce it in Spanish, but it was City of the East or something like that. We did street ministry there. Basically just handed out tracts, shared the gospel with people there, paid for people's groceries, stuff like that. And then there's just some pictures of the falls. Then we got back. We did a few work projects for Luis there. One story from the last week, whenever we were doing the street ministry, we were in a town where, I'm not sure, it wasn't like very poor, but it was somewhat poor. But there was this one guy, I think he was probably a Venezuelan refugee, I'm not sure. He was walking around with a trash cart, basically just going through dumpsters, and he had two little boys with him. One looked like maybe 2 years old, the other was maybe 5. It was pretty sad. And then, anyway, we saw them. We went and bought them a big bag of groceries, gave it to them, and the looks on their faces was pretty incredible. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole trip, just seeing the looks on their faces once when we gave them those groceries. Here we were doing a little project at their church, putting in I believe they were putting in a kitchen in one of their outdoor buildings. We were putting in water. That's their church house there. And this was also during the last week. We did a little kids club skit, did a little David and Goliath skit, and sang a few songs for the kids, played games with them. The David and Goliath skit was pretty funny actually. Jack, the one in the black shirt here, the blondie-haired guy, he got the idea. He was David, and then the one with darker hair was Javon, was Goliath, and Javon stood on a chair with a blanket around him, and then Jack had this brilliant idea that why not put a cupcake in the sling and use it as the rock. And he actually somehow hit him dead center in the forehead. It was pretty incredible. But the kids really enjoyed that. There was one of the church members there had a pet monkey we got to hold. And then that was the last day. It was about 10 minutes before we left. That was the house parents there where we stayed, Luis and Lydia. And then the 4 of us from the team. Yeah. I guess definitely the biggest takeaway for me from this trip, I'm trying to keep this short, by the way, because they were going for a year. I was only going for 4 weeks, basically 5 weeks. One of the biggest takeaways for me was definitely how the people down there, maybe they don't always get stuff done on time. They like to sit around a lot and drink Teddy, but they really have a lot of time for each other, and their relationships with each other are probably better than what most of us do here, or I would say that in my opinion. They just really spend a lot of time with each other, just talking. Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest takeaways for me. And then also another one was the format of the trip there was most of the time you have no idea what's happening the next day or even in the next 30 minutes. For example, the one day we were supposed to leave on a 3-day trip, and we didn't know that we were leaving until 30 minutes before, so that was pretty interesting. But that's something that's really, really good for me, was really, really good for me, just learning to kind of adapt, and when there's things that come up that you don't know how to handle, or maybe it's hard, you just jump in and do it anyway. Yeah, that's all I have. I guess I'll turn the time over to Daniel and Barbara.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for coming. This is what we carried around all year. This is what we.
I also
lived
had
on.
another backpack, but I didn't bring it along
Yeah.
tonight.
So we had a big backpack and a little backpack. Let me show that to you. Global Challenge Missions is the group we went with. It's 11-month mission trip, and a little bit about them and what they do. So they are based in South Africa in a small town called Jeffreys Bay. And the way it started was when a lady took some young people on a year-long trip, and they traveled to a lot of different nations, and she saw how God worked through in their lives, in the young people she took, and she decided, we need to do this again, and so she started this mission, and now they do a group like that every year. That was in 2006. The mission was from January to November, the end of November. We started in South Africa. There was 2 months of training. I'll tell you a little bit about those. So the first week they had a flywheel where they have 5 core values they kind of live by, and then so they basically told us what they believe and why, so we understood that. And then the second week there was a preacher there from Scotland that taught. The third week there was something similar to what Jason said that I can't tell you about in case you would go. The fourth week and the fifth week there was a Veritas, you call it, which means truth in Latin, I think. But it's a Bible study course that teaches you how to study the Bible in depth, and you research the words, what they meant in the original language, and you research the context. And so we did a course of that. I brought that along. I'll put it on a table in the back afterwards if you want to look through that. And I also brought a booklet that they gave us during Flywheel that has their kind of what they believe. And I found a lot of it was very similar to what we believe, except they're not an Anabaptist organization, so they don't practice the amount of separation we do. And they have a lot more emphasis on the Holy Spirit, and they all have a lot of emphasis on obeying God, but they have about the same amount of emphasis on the Holy Spirit as we have on the Word of God. So that was different. There was some things that was interesting, challenges there. To begin with, there was a group of 37, I believe, and we made up these were the people that we trained with. And we made up 3 different teams. There was a travel varsity that had 5 people. They traveled and studied at the same time. Then there was 2 teams that, one was 11, one was 10. So one was called Eastbound, the other was called Westbound. We were with Westbound. So that means from South Africa, Westbound went to South America, Central America, and Turkey and Georgia, and Eastbound went to a lot of countries in Asia and also Turkey, and a few countries in Africa at the end. So we didn't know which team we were going to be on or where we were going till, was it the 5th week, the 2nd month sometime. And yeah. So we'll share with you some about those people, the people we were with, and the different countries we went to, things we experienced. And I'll open it for questions at the end. So if you have questions, we want to hear them. That'd be interesting.
Okay, I'm going to share a little bit about our team. This is the team that we traveled with this year. If you go from left to right, on the left here is Georgia. She's from South Africa. She's a surfer, and so anything goes. You go very spontaneous, doesn't like to plan things, but we really enjoyed her. Mika is second there. She is also from South Africa. She loves horses and is hoping to go into equine therapy the next few years. Caitlin, the third, she's from the States, from Kentucky actually. But the Lord is calling her to go to South Africa, move there and open a coffee shop. Exciting times. Jana Skuman is from South Africa as well. She is an artist, and we thoroughly enjoyed her time, or the way that she blessed her team in that way. Emily, she was the girls' leader. She was the one who you went to if you're having a bad day, whatever. She was always there. She's a wonderful writer and working on her 3rd book, actually. Sarah, there beside me, she is from Zambia. She did school in South Africa. So she's has had quite a few different cultural experiences in her life, being born in Zimbabwe and growing up in Zambia, then school in South Africa. But so that always added another culture to our group. It's myself. And then Stian, he was our leader. He is what they call a boer from the inland, a farmer. He was farming there, and he had a herd of cows. He also did a He did a year similar to this in 2019. So they asked him to come back and to lead this team. At first he said no. This was about the 2nd week of December last year, a few weeks before it started. And then he thought about it more, and God was like, no, you need to go. So he actually sold all his cows, and he came and led us this year. Then there's Daniel. You know him. And James, he also grew up on a farm there on the coast by Jeffreys Bay. He would have gone to the school that this mission operates. And then Christian on the end is always known as the tallest member. Everybody would always ask him, how tall are you? And within probably the first week, we all knew how to answer. He's 2 meters tall, which is 6 foot something, I don't even know. 6'7". So yeah, that's our team, and really got to love each one. I'm gonna let you go ahead, Daniel.
So this was taken in training after our teams were all figured out, and I think somewhere we have a picture of the whole group. So yeah, the 2 months, well, we were in South Africa for 2 2.5 months. 2 months was training, and then 1 week was our first ministry point. What's that paper? So we'll have a video here that the team put together. Our teams were divided into 4 different teams. So there was a leader, he was kind of on his own. Then there was travel team, that's what I was on. Food team, Barb was on that. Finance team, and communications team. So we divided our responsibilities like that. And yeah, the communications team put together a year-end video that we want to show you, if we can figure it out here. So this picture is taken on a Sunday morning at their church. They call it celebration. It's not, and it's right to call it celebration. It's a short message and worship and singing. Then they have weekly, or during the week they have small group meetings once a evening every week, and that's where the real church happens. Isn't that
Rosina.
So the video here has some music to it. This was typical of the music or the worship music that we listen to throughout the year, in case you're wondering. And here it comes pretty soon.
So this is actually an overview of the entire year. So there's lots of clips from all the countries, and we'll visit all of them again just now. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and restart it a little bit. Sorry. Visual one. Done.
Eres pan para el hambriento y necesitado. En mi mesa nunca, nunca ha faltado. Tu promesa y no has fallado.
I wanna know you, not just about you. I've been slowly burning down, and not the lowest. You're in the moments. You're there to pull me out. I found a reason to keep on breathing, keep on keeping on. This life is fleeting, but I found meaning. I found a glimpse of hope. I want to live a life worth dying.
Okay, so that's the overview of the year. Here was in training. This was where we did Veritas, the studying. They have at the end you'll see a little bit of picture of their high school, I think, but this was in a big log cabin, 3 stories, that they call the mission house, and we had our sessions in the center story. And here we're making food, I guess. We had to make our own food, or yeah, we had made up teams and yeah, made our own food like you would on the year in training. This was athletics day. We helped at the school there. And this is Uncle Norm teaching, or they call him Uncle Norm. He's Norm Wakefield from Texas. He does a teaching there about a week long called Live to Love, and he's a very deep man of God. And this would be all of us with Uncle Norm, everyone who was at training. The guy, see if I can. This guy was his name is Frankie. He was the kind of coordinator of the whole year. If we had problems, we called him. Here was right after we found out what teams we were on. They had an evening, they told us it was going to be they were going to tell us stories, or someone was going to tell their life story, and then instead they played a video and it showed what route it was a route reveal, what routes we're going to take and who's on which team and which team is going where. So right after that, we wrote down on papers different things about each country, for each country, and yeah, and prayed about that. This is our team a little bit later. And Barbara, what's this?
This was one day we had a challenge that we needed to do. We needed to go out and do a global style treasure hunt, which is finding people to encourage and other things. Among all the challenges, we had to preach to a tree. And so my team preached to a small tree, bigger tree. This was the big final tree that we preached to. Share the gospel with it.
Yeah, South Africa, this is the size of trees they have right there in Jeffreys Bay. Other places, they have bigger ones. This was during work week. So I think I told you up till Veritas. Then the week after that, Uncle Norm came, and the week after that was a work week, I think. Or I might have those two mixed up. But we did different projects. Here Barbara was working in the garden. They have a garden project. And yeah, we also planted quite a lot of trees. Here's more pictures of that. In the background you can see their high school there. They're making, there's a lady there that's heading a project making a garden, what is a food forest, and there's going to be a small pond there, and a place where nature or beautiful plants to grow in creation. So here we were planting some sort of willow tree that's going to cover a path. And here we were digging a ditch, and that soil was hard, and we had picks and shovels, and that was it. This was all the travel team people from both teams, and we were finding our way to the first ministry point. That was our first challenge, to learn how to do travel stuff. So we had to find our own way. Well, we had some money, and we got a hitchhike with someone's aunt, and we made our way up to part ways to where the first travel challenge was. This is not the first travel challenge, where the first ministry point was. This is that ministry point. This is Makatini. It's in northeast of South Africa. It's very humid there, quite hot, and yeah, like jungle type. And there's Zulu people there. We put together these, they call them baskets of love. Buckets of love, I think. Buckets of love. And then we took these out. That's what we're doing here. Distributed those. 2 different people. This was the whole group. The whole group was still together there, both teams, although we were working together there. And this was at the base where we stayed. This was after this, the teams separated. This was one day we went to on a safari to a nature reserve where I saw my first elephant. I was going to put a picture of elephant in here, but I didn't. So Barbara's going to tell the next.
So the next clip here is a clip of when I was on my first Luke 10, and we kind of told the story there.
And Luke 10, I should tell you what that is. In the Bible, Luke 10, Jesus tells the disciples to go out 2 by 2 and not take any extra shoes, any money, no script, not take anything basically, and go and where you find a man of peace, stay there, and tell them the kingdom of God has come nigh unto you. So that's basically what we did. They would divide us up into small groups, 3 or 4, and drop us off different places. And this first one, they gave us a paper with our end location that we were supposed to get to. It was about 200 kilometers away from where we started. A certain address, we were supposed to get there. So we started on Monday. We were supposed to get there on Wednesday between 9 and 10. Very specific. And this was in the country of Eswatini, or it used to be called Swaziland. This is Mika and Barbara.
So, a testimony that we have this morning,
Can everybody hear okay?
last night we got to stay at Laura's place. She was so generous. Last night she made us a whole meal. And then this morning she even, she brought us and took us to a place, dropped us off, and she gave us some cash. And we could buy some amagueñas. And it's just so amazing to see how God uses his people wherever they are. And somehow he connects us with each other. And hopefully we were able to be an encouragement to her as much as she was to us. It was such a blessing.
Yeah. And then once we made it to the capital, we walked around the market, had some boni berams, very interesting, and some plums. And we were just talking about how Ostian's blood sugar was a bit low, he was a bit shaky. And we were walking along the market looking for a lift, and then we ran into Icon, who has a little repair shop near the market. And he asked where we were going, and we said we want to go to Sibebe Rock. And he said, let me take you. So he called over his wife, and he took us in his little car. And he got us some snacks without us asking, which was such a blessing. We had a lunch bar and we had a cool drink and some cheese crackers, and we weren't hungry. We had breakfast and our plums and humponi berams. But it was so cool for him to bless us in that way, because he doesn't look like someone that maybe lives in abundance necessarily, but he gave with such a generous heart, just such a generous heart. And we made it about more than halfway up to the Bebe Rock before he had to turn around with his rickety little car. But just his willing heart was such a testimony of how we are provided for and more.
So this was the team I was with, my Luke 10 team, Stian and Mika and I. And we got there to the top of the rock, which was one of the challenges that we had to accomplish. This was the meal the night before. I can't tell you what everything is anymore. The green goopy stuff that is running all over my plate on the bottom there, that was not ideal. You picked it up and it slimy, you had to take it all the way up and it was still this slimy thing. The problem was I didn't know how to dish it from the bowl in a small portion. And she was like, here, I'll help you. She dished it out and I was like, okay. Yes. It tasted kind of like some sort of spinach something. There was some offal in there somewhere, some intestines. Mealie pop, which is kind of like a cornmeal mush. And she did have a shrimp from the birthday party the night before or something that she offered us as well. This is Icon and his family. They picked us up and took us to the top there. And then this is Brazil. Brazil was our first country that we came to. This is inside a Catholic building. Catholicism is the main religion in most of South and Central America that we encountered a lot. This is Abner, and I'm gonna let Daniel tell you a story about Abner.
So in Brazil, we did a lot of preaching and doing church services, praying for people, that sort of thing. And one place we went to, Abner was our translator. And he's a very interesting character, as you can see. He was actually a missionary that he has been in Pakistan and India, I think, and now he's back in his home country of Brazil. So we ate lunch with them. This was a Sunday morning service, I think. And that afternoon, I think Stian visited with them quite a bit. And in the evening, we went to Abner took us to the place where he does ministry now there. And then we went to a church service at their church. And he works in you call them the favelas. They're the slums of Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I think this was the poorest and the biggest one of them all. So there, where we were, he took us into them. And typically you don't want to do that because that's where all the drug lords are. Actually, I think we saw some drug trades being made. The guys with big AK-47 or AK-15s and things. And the police don't go in there, but he's actually more safe there than in the rest of Sao Paulo, because him and some others started a school that the drug people's children came to, and the drug lords really appreciate that, and because he's helped their children, they will protect him, so he's safe there. And we were safe as long as we were with him. But there's buildings 3 stories high with alleys between them that you can walk, and for 2 people to pass, you have to stand sideways. That's not all of them, but a lot of them. We visited quite a few different people there, prayed for them, and some people actually were sick and got healed. And there was one man in particular. We went to his house, and he had dengue fever, and he couldn't walk. He had dengue fever as well as something in his one leg that he couldn't walk. And he showed up that evening walking at the church service. So God healed him.
This was in the prayer room at the main church that we stayed at. There was lots of testimonies, lots of preaching. We got to go to Rio and see some of the famous sites there. This is one of the churches we were at. This was the only church in Brazil where most of the youth could speak English. So this was a highlight for us. One of the other churches, we went evangelizing. So we kind of had a base church in Brazil, and every night or however often we go out to different other churches. In a week of 7 days, we'd probably have between 5 and 6 services. So this was with the home church going and evangelizing in the streets, and we did translate most of these signs before we went out. Lots of food, good food. More preaching, praying for people. After every service, the team would go up to the front, and we'd invite anybody who wants to come for prayer. Testimonies, subways, got to do a little bit of exploring. And prayer always happens everywhere. This was at a restaurant. We had out in the parking lot just before we were leaving. In the parks, this is the view from the prayer window. This is, you could call this a favela. We got put on TV. None of us were expecting that, but we got to share a bit of the gospel on TV and what we were doing. There's a Christian news show there that some of the people were involved with. More food. cake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the 2 other meals they serve in between those 3. And the little children always get your heart. Daniel, I made friends with these older ladies in the one church. And acai was a big thing there. We loved treating ourselves to acai. It's kind of like a sorbet type of ice cream. And we also visited the falls here that Jason was at. Iguazu. Okay.
This is on the way from Brazil, we went to Iguazu Falls and to Paraguay. And from the border of Paraguay, we hitchhiked to Ascension, the capital city on the other side of Paraguay. And this was my group. Barbara and I were in the same group. There's 4 of us. And we had a nice experience. It was harder than Eswatini. In Eswatini, everyone picks you up. Here, some people picked us up. But we got there, and that night, when we got to Ascension, it was 10 o'clock at night, and we didn't have a place to sleep, so we went to the one police station and asked them. The first they said no, and eventually they let us sleep on our mats in their lunchroom. So now I've slept in a police station. This is Oscar. He is one of 4 men at the church we stayed at. The gate behind us is a part of the church. So him and the other 4 men, I think they come out of addiction and things, and they live together there on the church property and take care of the church. There's a school there, or not a school, but a children's ministry where there's a favela, or I don't know if you call them favelas in Paraguay, but there's a poor community right close there, and some of the children come there for meals if they don't have another meal. But these 4 men get up every morning at 5, and they spend an hour to 2 hours praying and worshiping the Lord. I got to join them a couple mornings, and that is very impactful for me, to spend 2 hours praying, basically. Yeah. So this man in the middle, whoops, let me fix that over. So this one, his name is Jose. He's a musician, and we went to his house for I don't know, was it cottage meetings or something, and his family's fairly wealthy, but he was how do you say, quite inspired by what we were doing, and he ended up giving us a guitar that the team then used. This is 2 more of those 5 men that serve at the church. This was at a evangelism school we went to called Alma, and the South Africans made poikikos, which is a South African word that means pot food, basically a stew for these people there. And this is some of the people we were with in Paraguay. These people on the left, these 3. This is Diego's wife. He was our host there, and their 2 children. He is from South America somewhere. I think it's Paraguay, and she is from the Netherlands. And that evening we also, they made us quite a lot of asado. Let's see, where do we want to be? Here. So here here we were eating. Do you know what this is?
This is just a random day. We had some meat and cheese, which was a delicacy on our trip.
And a global style birthday party. This is pretty bougie for that. We painted the wall there. I got to weld. That was special for me. This was some children's ministry we did in Paraguay. And this is at the church there. They played soccer almost every evening, also with children from that poor community. This is asado, their form of barbecue. And quite a few people made us asado. This is cleaning up at the kitchen there and exiting.
And this is another travel challenge. This was my team, Christian, Jana, and I. And it was a successful travel challenge because we learned a lot, but it was not easy. Dale, do you remember the distance?
1,800 kilometers.
So like 1,800 kilometers that we had to go from Friday, and the goal was to get there Sunday evening. We didn't get there until Wednesday morning, I believe. Yeah, it was very difficult, and it was a time where we went into this. We were like, okay, this is gonna be great. The last time was fun. We love doing these things. We love adventure, and we need to get there. But kind of leaving God out of the picture. And sometimes if there was a decision to be made, we'd kind of make the decision and be like, oh yes, we need to pray about this. And then we pray about it, but we'd still go with what we first thought. And so we had a very difficult time. Ended up walking over 20 kilometers in the rain with, 20 kgs on our back and maybe another 5 in the front. And it was miserable, but we got through it. And the next time it wasn't like that. It was something that we all learned from a lot, that it is very important to include God in everything, and to pray about things. And if the Lord says wait, just wait. Don't necessarily go out and try to get further, because you're not going to get much further by walking. Not if you look at 1,800K. So this was us waiting. The scenery was beautiful. We loved that part of it. In a few countries, there's just going to be a redemption story that comes from this, that stems from this story.
This was my team. We thought we had it bad until we heard how it was going for the others. We got there Monday evening. That was walking in. We went from Paraguay to Uruguay through Argentina. Argentina people don't really pick up hitchhikers. This is Uruguay now.
This was when we got to Uruguay. There were a few answered prayers here in this picture. I had been feeling a bit like I don't know what familiar is anymore with a lot of church ministry and kids ministry stuff. And then we get here and we're able to, the bread is too expensive to buy, so we get to bake our own bread. So that was a lot of fun for me. We worked on a farm there. There's a small community. Most of the people are from South Africa. There's a couple from Germany and one from Namibia. They're working on creating a farm there. We played ultimate frisbee. And we had our own beautiful little home to stay in for the first few weeks of our team. So that was some lovely team times. Working in the field, Stian and Daniel. And working inside of the greenhouse, I guess. We're moving that around. Got to drive tractor again. And this is our master chef checking his food. It turned out very well. It was some leg of lamb that that the community gave us. They gave us a lamb that we could butcher and have. So it was so good. And here we go, leaving again, global style. This was a church there in Montevideo, Uruguay. And we were only there for like a long weekend, but they definitely kept messaging us for a long time afterwards. I guess we impacted them a lot, I guess. It was just really cool to see what the Lord's doing there. And staying in their homes. Kids ministry there. And some more travel again.
That picture was on the way to Argentina. We actually got to take a ferry there. So this is in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. And there, we thought we were going to a YWAM base. And we get out, and the lady that picks us up has 2 taxis that take us and our bags, and we go down these dodgy streets and in a poor part of town, and then we come to this intersection, and they tell us, okay, here you get out. So we get out and walk down, and turns out we weren't going to a YWAM base. We were going to going to a pastor and his wife where they had started a church just 4 months ago, and we helped them. We painted their church and did some children's ministry with another church and did some services, a lot of different sorts of things. But something I remember from that man, when he would introduce us in church, he would say, "These people, they can do anything. They even built built a doghouse for my wife's dog," because they built a doghouse. This is in Mendoza. There we actually stayed at a YWAM base for 2 days, I think. And they had a ropes course that we did there that they blessed us with. And this is on the subway in Argentina. It was quite cold. There it was about freezing, and they don't have heat in the houses. It's like they aren't used to cold. It was a large bookstore we went to, and this is how when you have all these bags and you want to explore a city, but you're on a bus and you don't have a place to put a bag, you go to a shop and you ask them, "Can you put your bags in your closet for a while?" And then they say yes, and then you do. Then we traveled by bus over the Andes. That was about a 20-hour bus ride. And this is the road down from the Andes. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a lot of switchbacks, and it's far. No.
This is then in Chile, where our team split up into the different homes there. Emily and I stayed with this family, and they always served us an incredible meals. The first morning we were there, we got up and we had eggs and bacon and yogurt and fruit and granola and nuts and anything you could name, they had it. But Chile people from Chile don't eat breakfast. They had Googled, what do Americans eat for breakfast? What do South Africans eat for breakfast? And they served us very well there. This was the church that we ministered with there, the youth group. This is our team. And we did a lot of school ministry there. So we went to schools for 2 weeks, I think. Every day we went to school. This is one of the high school classrooms. We go in, a team of us, and most of the time we did pretty much question and answer. Told them about missions, told them about God. It was a Baptist school, so a lot of the children knew about Jesus, but most of them didn't know him. And yeah, so we had some really cool conversations most of it was high school, but as any questions from what's your favorite color to how do we know God exists? They asked all of the questions. And thankfully there was a team of us in the front and we'd be like, okay, are you answering that one? Because I'm not sure if I want to this time. And it worked out very well. Also, many little friends. This was Barbara. She is from the church there, and it was really cool how the Lord brought us together. And our testimonies are actually very similar. This is us teachers chilling and just waiting for our next class. This was a dance class after school. This was saying goodbye. This little boy cried so much. After we were up in the bus, him and Daniel played rock, paper, scissors until we left. And he was so sad to see us go. And this is Peru.
So the travels from Chile to Peru were the longest, I think, because Peru doesn't do very much online. So we had to go to the bus stations and find out from there how to get to the town we wanted to go to. So I think we had about 3 days of travel getting there. We got to this town called Puerto Maldonado, just inside the Amazon rainforest. And our host name was Daniel. He's this man here, and this is his wife and their son. Here we went to a papaya farm, and we had a lot of papayas there. I keep eating that. This was the whole group. That was actually when we were leaving. There was the church there is quite new, Actually, the week before we got there, Daniel had his first convert, which was this man right here. His name is Enrique. And these are his nephews. I think this is his son. And this is his sister. She became a Christian while we were... No, this is his sister. This is her daughter. She became a Christian while we were there. His sister did. Washing papayas. This was our transportation. And we played a little bit of volleyball. More foosball. This was a picture after church. He's rented this little building, one-room building for church, and has services there. This man is he is a Christian, so I guess this isn't quite as new as I thought. But he travels from pretty far to come attend this church. Yeah, I think Enrique was the first local believer there. This was on a boat in the Amazon. Well, not the Amazon. This was on the Madre de Dios, that tribute to the Amazon, or runs into there. Barbara, what's this?
So this was one night. Us girls were already in bed. We were ready to sleep. And then Pastor Daniel comes over, and he has fried plantains for us. And so, of course, you have to have a snack just before going to bed. The boys brought it up, and we enjoyed fried plantains.
One time, Enrique took us into the rainforest, and he found a vine, and he cut it off, and we had a swing. And another time, we went to Enrique's wife's father's house, and spent the day there, and going to this stream here, had a picnic here. Some of the boys went looking for gold because there's gold in these rivers. Here, the boy on the left, his name is Samin, and this is his brother, and this is their cousin, I think. But Samin and I got to be pretty good friends, and his brother as well would come over. But they lived in the house right beside ours, and we lived in a workshop owned by Enrique while we were there. We were there for 2 weeks. And I have an interesting story from that time. My phone had an update, and after the update, the screen did not work anymore. The touch part of the screen, like it would light up, but there was I couldn't use it. So I had no phone for about the last week of Paraguay and 2 weeks after that. And it actually made for some of the richest experience of the whole trip because I didn't have that distraction. Often we would have the afternoons off, and then we would go rest, and I would be on my phone. But after I couldn't be on my phone anymore, I was down resting or just chilling, I guess, in the lower part, and Samin would come over, and he had a top that he taught me how to play. It took me quite a long time. It has you tie a string to it, and then you spin it really fast, and you can, if you're really good at it, you can make it go from one hand to the other, but just to make it land on the right way so it spins is quite a challenge. And we played with toy cars and things, so I got to know him pretty good. This is them and Christian. This was inside the house where we lived. And this is now Cusco. Barbara, what's this?
So when we were in Cusco the one time, I think, the guitar, this is the guitar that Jose had given us, and an accident had happened, it had gone broken, so it was left at the repair shop. We had just picked it up, and we were going to go explore Cusco, and so there we were, we had just picked it up, and we were worshiping and stuff until the rest of the group came around. And this was going into Feranafi, Peru. Huh? Yeah. This is Machu Picchu is a miracle story. We were probably in Uruguay, and Stian told us, he was like, guys, I don't think we'll be able to go to Machu Picchu because it's peak tourist season there, and the tickets are already booked out, sold out for the time we're going to be there. So we had kind of given it up, but it had been something that a lot of the team had really been looking forward to for a long time. We arrived in Cusco, and Stian was talking with the host there, and they found out that apparently this one ticket agency sells 100 tickets every morning. And so first come, first serve for the first 100. So Stian called us together and he was like, guys, we have the opportunity. We can go see if we can buy tickets. But the team did not have the finances for that. Most of us we're traveling for a year. Machu Picchu is a world destination, and so it's not cheap. Anyway, so we decided, well, we could maybe try and scratch together enough money amongst ourselves for most of us to go. But it didn't feel right for some of us to go and others not. And so we prayed about it. And we were like, well, we do have people back home for a reason. And so quite a few of us put it on our prayer groups. And within 10 minutes, we had enough money for not only the people who were missing money to go, but for everybody to go. And everybody only had to pay like $10, which was an incredible miracle. So I don't know if any of you are sitting in the room here that helped sponsor this trip, but this was a dream come true and a blessing from God. God not only wants us to minister to other people, he also wants us to have fun and to see his creation. And Daniel and Christian, of course, had to play chess on the top of Machu Picchu.
You can't see it very good there, but the chess, the one is Spanish and the other is Incas. And Christian, that thing he's wearing is a traditional robe of the Incas. Okay. Where's this?
This is just a random market that we passed. Beachfront. This is in Fedanafi with a group of Christians there. We went out evangelizing the one night and stopped here for dinner. This is Lady, and the two of us were paired up to go out when we went out to the markets, and we stopped for ice cream along the way. This was in Incahuasi, which has quite a high altitude up in Peru. And in all of Peru, with traveling and stuff, a lot of people suffer from altitude sickness. You wouldn't think about it, but traveling over very tall mountains the pressure does something to you. So we were up here, and it was really, really cool to see the people there. This is Trino. The people here still live in a very traditional or fairly traditional way and dress traditionally. Trino here is a Christian. There was a missionary couple from South Africa that lived here for quite a few years. I want to say 12, 17 years. And then when COVID happened, they had to move back to South Africa. And now Trino is there taking care of the place. But he can't speak much English, but he has the most beautiful smile. He loves flowers, so in the morning, us girls or a few of us would be sitting there at the dining room table having our devotions or whatever, and he'd come in with a little rose and he'd put it in his vase and he'd just give us the biggest smile ever.
You see, there I don't have a beard. We were told that, we were told this story. 10 years ago, another group went to Incahuasi, and they all had beards. They were kind of scruffy because they were traveling the world, I guess. And they went to this one school, and when the children saw them, they all ran out screaming because up there nobody had ever seen. The men up there didn't really wear beards, but. So we all shaved our beards so that we wouldn't have that problem. But then we found out by now they're acculturated enough that it's not a problem. So if you go to Incahuasi, don't worry about your beard.
This was in Guatemala.
So here I was welding in Guatemala. Guatemala, we went to a missionary's place by the name of Greg Walter. And his whole life is kind of like a Luke 10. He went someplace till the Lord told him to stay here, and then he stayed there, and then he's traveled quite a bit. Now he's been for the last 20 years, I think, in Guatemala. and he does work for the kingdom. He doesn't like to do things for just one church or something. He does it for the kingdom, and he doesn't care if he gets recognition or not, which is the way it should be. But this was one day we went 8 hours back into the mountains to a village where he had been, where the guerrillas had been dropped after the Civil War, and him and his wife had gone back in there and started a school, and now the village is taking the school on, and they moved out to a town by the name of Kania. This is Maya. This is a Maya ruin. That stone in the middle, this is where they used to play a game where the losing team got sacrificed to the gods, and the stone in the middle is where they got killed. But that area there is where they would play that game. You had to hit a ball through a very small hole in the wall. This is... Go ahead, Barbara.
Because of this, a lot of these ancient traditions and stuff and things that they used to do, Guatemala was a very dark country for us, and it was really difficult to see what some of the people are going through even now. I don't know that there are any human sacrifices and stuff happening anymore, but it definitely was a part of their history.
This was back at that village. We did some work for them, and then one day they had a celebration. We'll have a picture of Esdras later. There's a little story behind this. Someone gave Greg a small piece of land back quite a long lane by a river, and you have to cross this river 4 different times to get to the land. So the one day, there's this man that works for Greg sometimes. His name is Esdras, and these are his 2 children on the truck. And so these are his 2 children, and that's another worker. And this is Christian and me. And we went back there to fix a fence. The fence had got washed away, I think. And while we were there, it started raining. And so we worked a little bit, and then we quickly started heading out. We had gotten back. We had crossed the river twice, and then we walked the rest of the way. So then we tried to cross the river again. It was raining in torrents, and the side we were going up was just plain mud and quite steep. And I thank the Lord the truck didn't tip over. At one time it almost did. You almost felt it. But after about 10 tries or so, we got out of there. And this was right after that, and Esdras went into the shop and bought us chocolate bananas, which is quite a thing there. Frozen bananas covered in chocolate. This was on a volcano. This man, we're doing a global jump, which is kind of an iconic global thing to do. This man is Greg Walter. This is on top of his Land Rover. This is his daughter, Greg's daughter. And this is Esdras, the man that went back there with to fix that fence. I enjoyed working with him quite a lot. Honduras.
So in Honduras, our team actually split up into 2 different locations. So half of the team went to an island, and they did ministry there. That's a miracle story for another day. You'll have to ask us about that later. But a few of us were able to go to Honduras, where the Yoders are at, and visit the Mennonite community there. So that was really a lot of fun. This was, I think, the first Sunday we were there. Everybody dressed up in Mennonite dresses and went to church. This was actually, these pictures are a little bit mixed up, but this was leaving, and the way that we were all packed in the back there. This was a typical travel, where you went from one place to another. They went and got Frosties at one point. This is the group of people that were there with the David Yoder family. It was really, really cool to see how the Lord was working, how the Lord is and is working there. And the openness with which they received our team was really, really cool to see. They asked a lot of questions, and our team asked a lot of questions. So everyday life was ministry. Everyday life, well, we were both ministering to each other, and every conversation had a purpose, and it was really cool to see how that all worked out. Worship on the porch, and we butchered a pig. That was a first for many of us. This was Saturday morning. The ladies got together for tea, and they had fresh homemade soft-served ice cream. So good. We had so much good food there. To this day, we were in South Africa, and somebody asked our team, what was like your favorite food this year? And James pipes up, he's like, that fried chicken in Honduras. She makes it better than KFC. This are a few of the girls there. I'm just gonna go back here. A little bit, so yeah, I'm gonna be planning to go back to this community in a little less than a month and teach school there, which I'm very excited for. It was just really cool how the Lord spoke to me there. So my morning devotions, when I was there, it was really cool how I didn't necessarily have a specific book I was working through at the time, but the Lord often in the morning, he was like, research what it means to respect, or what it means to forgive, or what it means to all these different things. And so that was really cool how the Lord showed me a lot of different things, and a lot of it I needed to put to practice right then and there. But just how the Lord provided for what we needed there was really cool. And then this is, if you remember the previous travel challenge, that was very difficult. This is going on from the story, that testimony that comes out of that. This was our Luke 10 in Costa Rica. Christian and I were again on the same team. Yana was with a different team. But we learned that you need to pray before you do anything. So the evening before we left, we all got together, and Christian was like, we talked about, which direction we want to go and whatever else, and the Christian was like, okay, you guys are going to go back to your room, and we're going to pray. We're going to ask the Lord what he wants us to do tomorrow, and we're going to trust the Lord for his guidance there. The next morning we got up, and we went out. We didn't wait hardly 10 minutes before Calvin, the guy, this guy right here, before he came by and picked us up. He loves cars, and so he took us to his place. Actually, first he was like, where are you guys going? And we're like, well, maybe the beach. I don't know. Like, where are you going? And he was like, well, he's planning to go see his dad and see his little siblings. But on the way, he took us to a waterfall, and we went in and swam. And then he was like, oh, guys, we need towels. And so we went to his dad's house and got towels there. And we got there, and there's this showroom that has like 5 or 6 really cool cars in it. I don't know the car names because I'm not that person. But this guy here, Christian, went crazy. He was like, what? You guys have this car? I know there was a Lambo in there. There was a few like old restored cars. But that was one way I think God answered his prayers that it would go well, because he thoroughly enjoyed it. We all enjoyed it. Calvin isn't a Christian that I know of. He's very much, if I do good to others, others will do good to me. That's kind of how he lives his life. So then we were with him that night. The next day we didn't wait more than 5 minutes for a lift at any point, which is a miracle. That never happens. But we always got to go to the next place. Coming on the last evening, we decided that we're going to come back to Calvin, and we're going to stay the night with him again if we can, and we're going to tell him stories. We got there, and he wasn't there at the moment, so we ended up being at his neighbor's place, and she invited us for dinner then, and then Calvin came home. His girlfriend was there as well, and his girlfriend's dad, so the girlfriend's dad is a pastor and just started his own church within the last year or two, and is very excited about that. This has been a lifelong dream of his. And so the girlfriend is a Christian, but she was struggling a lot. And so she asked us to pray for her. And so he came home about this point. And then chatted a little bit, and then he went and took a shower, and then she told us some of the things that she'd been struggling with. And then when he came out again, we asked him if we could pray for her, and he was like, yeah, sure. And so we all took turns and prayed for her, and we had some encouragement for her and stuff, and he was sitting there on the floor like, what is happening? You could see that his mind was spinning 100 miles a minute. This was, I don't know if this was the first time that he had been, I'm sure this is the first time that he had seen anything like this. Yeah, and so we ended up going over to his neighbor's house for dinner then, and Calvin and his girlfriend came over, and he had been dreaming about possibly purchasing that property so that he could have his own garage for his cars at his house. And that evening, but he had never had good relationships with his neighbor. That evening, she said that, hey, she's thinking about selling if he'd want to buy it. And so he was like, this was another thing, like, what is happening here? Like, these people show up. My girlfriend is going through this, and yet she's so happy. And now my neighbor is offering her house to me that I've been dreaming of for years. Like, what is this? So, yeah, we're still praying for him and hope that something good comes out of that. This is the team that went, Luke 10 team. And we also got to do some surfing in those in-between days. And this was in Costa Rica. After the Luke 10, we served at an orphanage there. We painted an entire building inside and out. This was the girls. We did a little coffee date, some more manual labor. And there we didn't necessarily have much ministry as in preaching and stuff, teaching, but we did a lot of manual labor, and that really meant a lot to them. This was from Costa Rica at the airport before we left for Turkey. So our flight was early in the morning, and it just worked better to get there the night before and sleep a while before we take off. The airports, saw lots of those. And
This is in Turkey. We were in Turkey for about 2 days, day and a half, when we found out that my grandpa died. So this is a picture from before then. Then here's the one to me and Barbara were able to find flights home. It was in Istanbul, Turkey, so it's a big airport, and fortunately we were able to find reasonable priced flights and come home for the funeral. It was very special. So we missed most of our team's time in Turkey, but we gained. In Turkey, they had this thing they call a parents' visit, where any parents that can want to or can afford to go and visit the team, and it was about 2 weeks. So we missed that, but we had our own parents' visit, I guess. Then this is in Ankara, Turkey. We met the rest of the team there. Some cats were on a bag, and then we stayed at this place, and they wanted the picture. So there's everyone with all their bags, all ready to go. This is in Georgia. From Turkey, we went to Georgia with a bus. That was a 26-hour bus ride, right? 26 hours. Yeah. It was a long time. This is a view from a monastery there. It's very beautiful in Georgia. Georgia is right above Turkey, below Russia, on the east of the Black Sea. This is a wine cellar there from one day we went sightseeing. There we spent 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks there. And there's a missionary from South Africa that we help. Okay, there's a worker there. And in Georgia, you still have to be a bit careful about missionary work. But we help them with different things. We stayed at a pastor's place. This is his house. Some of us boys helped him put some of these things in place to pour the concrete for his pillars. Us boys, the 4 boys, put a gable on the house of an old lady. The government had replaced her house, but they left one gable open. I don't know why. And so we put a gable on and put a floor on the one porch. And she made us food the one day. I don't have a picture of her and the house. I wish I did. But this is the food she made, and it was very good. Georgia food was just very good. Barbara, you know more about this.
So us girls took turns going to different places. There was a school that some of us helped out at. Here, we did a lot of grapes. This was right at the end of grape harvest. And so we had piles of grapes.
This was, in every country, I've noticed they all have their own kind of making meat over fire. In South Africa, it's braai. I forget what this was called, but they have these skewers, they put meat on it, and they make it over fire. This was the family we stayed with, or a few of them, the dad and the son, at a church.
A few of the girls also at one point got to go help make compost. This guy is starting up a compost business there. We put a lot of bad grapes on the top of this, so that's what that is. Sifted a lot of it. More grapes. This was our living situation there. At first, we thought we were going to have to sleep outside, and it was very cold temperatures. But then they offered us the inside of the church house, so we put up our tents there and slept there. The boys were along the right side there, and us girls had the tents. This is just a common site. One of the monasteries that we did quite a bit of touring in Georgia, which was very nice.
There's James with a sword he found at the one market. On the bus or subway, after we were doing ministry in Georgia, we spent 5 days in Tbilisi, the capital city, and then we also went here. This is Georgian Chronicles, a monument. I think they're still not quite done with it, but remembering 1,500 years or something like that 3,000 years of Georgian statehood and 1,000 years of Christianity in Georgia. There's the Orthodox Church has a large hold on Georgia, but there's not very many Christians with changed hearts. And also in Georgia, this is a subway. Also in Georgia, there's the second largest group of unreached languages is in Georgia. There's a lot of small communities that have their own different language. There's one in, I think it's an area called Dagestan that has 40 different languages in that area. And Georgia is smaller than Ohio, and it's just a small part of that. Some scenery. This is on the way back to Turkey. And in Georgia, they have this food called a shawarma. It's like a wrap, and it's very, very good. Here, everybody's watching them make one, and there's Barbara eating one. This is in Istanbul, Turkey. I wanted to get this cool picture. This is the Galata Tower, I think. This is a famous place. And then while I was doing that, this guy came and stuck his hand underneath me. And yeah, he was a very happy fellow.
This is Daniel. We were out exploring for the day, and we were walking in this very wealthy part of town. There was this big hotel that had its own carpets that it was selling. And Daniel was like, let's go in there. And we're like, we haven't been in any place this wealthy, like, ever. And he's like, no, I want to go look at the prices of the carpets. Because he had just bought a carpet and he wanted to compare. We get in there. He was in his element. There were no prices around because it was too expensive for prices to be out on the carpets. But it was a lot of fun. And this is the Turkish delight we had way too much of. So good. This is one of the last days in Turkey. And we hit South African soil again. Everybody, well, they didn't audibly give a cheer when we landed, but I'm pretty sure they would have if they would have had a little bit more. I don't know. Everybody's very excited for it. Yeah. And this was us so we seen a lot of good meat on the year. Well, some good meat at a few places, but nothing compares to South African braai. We had just fresh meat, and everybody was very, very excited for that. That was at James's house. And this is our team. So this is the end of our presentation. I'm gonna ask y'all got a piece of paper with a country on it. I want you to look at that country. And these are countries that we visited. Jason has visited 2 of the countries. And so we're then gonna spend a little bit of time praying for those countries. Are there any questions before we do that? From anyone about anything we just talked about? There's a lot.
Also, if you have questions later, I enjoy talking about this. I'd be happy to talk with you later about anything. So anybody have any questions at all?
I was wondering if you took your welding equipment along?
No, they had a little welder there. It was the smallest welder I have ever seen. Yeah, you hold it to weld. Yeah.
Maybe not a question, but thank you very much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Very interesting, and all the Latin pictures makes us feel very much at home. And yeah, what Jason also shared, you were commenting there, South America or Paraguay, a lot of their culture is like very friendly, whatever, like a handshake or a hug. You gotta watch out, if you're not prepared for the hug, they might knock your breath out, so be ready for it. Thank you very much. And with all the stuff that you went through, you're probably seeing a lot of changes here in the last week, so just be prepared for it and God be with you.
Thank you.
Did Barbara say that she's returning to Honduras?
Yes,
to teach?
Honduras.
I have a question. You said in Georgia, it's difficult to evangelize, but then you also said a lot of the country is Orthodox. Is it the Orthodox Church that would be like in opposition to the evangelical gospel, or what makes that it's hard to evangelize?
The Orthodox Church is hard to penetrate because it's a whole social group. The priest has control of the Bible, so they tell, actually during COVID they told the people you can read a certain section of the Bible now on your own. But something more that makes it more difficult to evangelize is it was part of the Soviet Union, and a lot of that structure is still there, or the government still operates a little bit that way. The people don't like Russia and the Soviet Union, but there's still a lot of that big brother looking over your shoulder type of thing. Yes.
It'd be helpful if you would share a little about Yana's personal journey. Everybody sees that she cut her hair there towards the end for a reason. But
Yeah. So you see on the picture here, there's one of the ladies from our team shaved her head. That's her mother got cancer when we were in Costa Rica. They found that out, and yeah, that was quite a big blow to her. Her parents, I think they say they're Christians, but they need prayer. But she shaved her head to support her mother. So, yeah. Anything else? Okay, then let's go to you.
Okay, why don't we all stand up and find a group of maybe 2 or 3 people around you, and let's just ask God to come into these countries and to bless these countries, and that His kingdom could be further there. And that's the end of our presentation.
So we find a group that connects to our country.
No, just with whoever's around you.
Thank you.